After Zoomies at the dog park, it's time for Drive Up at Target. In goes a big bag of kibble and one squeaky chicken toy for the good boy. Drive Up that's ready when you are, only in the Target app. Just tap Target.
Gatorade is the #1 proven electrolyte blend designed to hydrate better than water. So you can lose more sweat and raise your game. Gatorade, is it in you?
Buckeye Talk is about to begin. Hey, 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 come on in.
Welcome back to Buckeye Talk. I'm Stephen Means. That's Stefan Krajisnik, and that is Andrew Gillis coming to you from Las Vegas hotel room. After the first day of Big Ten Media Days, we talked with Ryan Day. We talked with Commissioner Tony Petitti. We talked with Jeremiah Smith, Caleb Downs, and Sonny Styles. Not big football stuff. If you were looking for the in the weeds, what's going on with the Ohio State football team, that this was not necessarily the environment for that. We did get updates on the defensive tackle depth. I think Will Smith was the name he mentioned prominently as a guy who is starting to build depth, but you need some other guys to come along here. I've been saying this on the pod and on the text, 614-350-3315, this idea of the reason Ohio State didn't go after anybody in the portal at defensive tackle is because they looked around at the portal and said, is there anybody in the portal better than what we already have? They said no. Ryan Day has now said that publicly. That's why they didn't explore anybody in the portal. And then a little bit of quarterback talk of how they're going to approach the quarterback battle heading into spring. He didn't name a starter, Stefan, but he did talk about what the plan is heading into fall camp while understanding that your first game is against a top 3, top 5 opponent at home in Texas. So what is the plan? When we are in the Woody next Thursday, July 1st, as Ohio State begins fall camp practice, what is the plan for Ohio State's quarterbacks next week?
Yeah, for those listening on the podcast who can't see our faces, I just let out a exasperated look, realizing that fall camp is like a week away and football season is very much here. It seems like this offseason was so slow and so quick at the same time. It's like Ryan Day is balancing patience with urgency as it comes to this quarterback competition, because I think he's okay being patient and saying, Julian saying, I want to push you, go earn this starting job, show me you deserve this starting job, do something to make me think that you deserve this starting job before I just give it to you. And as much as I think he wants to be patient, I think he also understands that the week 1 opponent might be the #1 team in the country. At worst, the #3 team in the country. So how do you accomplish both of those things? I think that we're going to see, for as like laid back, I guess, for maybe a lack of a better term, for as laid back as Ohio State was in the spring, just because their players were 2 months removed from playing competitive football, like they had to somewhat take it easy in the spring. This might be a team that kind of gets after it pretty early in fall camp. Obviously, like as soon as they can put pads on. There's those first few practices without pads. But like when this team is cleared to go, I think Matt Patricia and Ryan Day and James Laurinaitis and Matt Guerreri and Larry Johnson, I think they're going to throw some things to Tim Walton there. They're going to throw some things at Julian Sayin and at Lincoln Keenholz to say, go win this starting job right now, because we need to spend all of fall camp preparing for Texas. And we can't take it easy and say, let's slowly do this, let's slowly do that. We got to get Julian Sayin some reps. Like, I think, and this is what Ryan Day said too, like they're going to put Julian Sayin in some competitive environments pretty early, I think, in fall camp. And your hope is that he shines and that by like August 15th, days like this guy's our starter. And if he struggles, well, at least you're throwing stuff at him early, so he's got the rest of August to figure it out. I would lean toward, I think Julian Sayin's probably pretty close to thriving and showing why he should be the starting quarterback, but you got to get answers early. And you took it slow through the spring. You did what you could, given the circumstances of how late the season went. Now it's full go. Like August, what I think August 1st would be their first. No, that would be too early. Like August 3rd or 4th would be the first padded practice.
Mm-hmm.
Like throw some things at Julian. Put him in the fire, make him uncomfortable, because there's a big game looming. And now this quarterback competition is full go now. And it's time for Julian Sayin to solidify himself as this team's starting quarterback, at least publicly.
Okay, Andrew, I have a question for you. Ohio State starts practice July 31st. They play Texas on August 30th. That's 30 days. Let's set the over-under in terms of days that Ohio State, on the day Ryan Day names his starting quarterback at August 15th. If I said Ryan Day is going to name his starting quarterback on August 15th, would you say much earlier, meaning the week of August 30th, August 3rd, a little earlier, meaning maybe it's the same week as August 15th, but it's like that Monday or Tuesday, a little later, meaning it's the week of August 17th, or much later, meaning August 22nd or later? Ryan Day names his starting quarterback, given that they are going to be playing a top 5 opponent week 1.
I say a little earlier, and the reason I say a little earlier is I think you would want 2 weeks of kind of game prep. I think you kind of have to take into account these kids' schedules too. I believe classes start the week of the 18th in August, and I think that is kind of the time that you want to start ramping that up, right? That is going to be like they're going to be preparing for Texas, and I'm sure they already have to some degree for a couple of weeks. So, you want to have as much prep as possible. You also just got to get better and, get reps and things like that. That I think is the first 2 weeks of camp. But I think a little bit earlier, and, August 15th is a Friday. To me, that's a really, really nice time to do that. And, you get that Friday. Maybe you have like a scrimmage or something on the 16th, you give them off the 17th on Sunday, and then you come back on the 18th on that Monday, and you have your starting quarterback. It's locked in. They know who the guy is. When you go through reps, you don't have to worry about dividing this up and going, oh, well, we got to give Lincoln an equal chance. Forget all that. You got to play Texas in 2 weeks after that, in 12 days by that point. So I think having your answer 2 weeks in to get Lincoln, or to get Julian, assuming it is Julian, getting him the runway that he needs is going to be really important. So I think that that's a great timeline. You get a couple of weeks of fall camp. You get a lot of days where they're able to both go out there and show them what they got and kind of show what they can do. But you also need to take into account that the number 1 team in the country, maybe the number 2 team in the country, maybe the number 3 team in the country, it really just kind of depends, is going to be coming to Columbus, and they're really good. And you have a quarterback who, he's thrown 12 career passes. You need as much game prep specifically as possible for that week. So I think giving him those 2 weeks is probably of the utmost importance. So I'll say a little bit early.
Is that enough time, Stefan? Or would you want to see more?
I think that's enough time. I think I'm in the boat of Julian Sayin as this team's starting quarterback.
So why not do it earlier?
I think it could be earlier.
When would you do it if you're Ryan Day?
After whatever their first scrimmage is. I assume that would be August 8th, whatever that Saturday is.
It'll be the 9th. Yeah. Would you
if the scrimmage is, if it's August 9th, then maybe he would announce it on August 11th.
Would you have done it earlier? Would you have named your starter in the spring?
I think I would have said after the spring game, Julian is the leader in the clubhouse going into fall camp. Or I think coaches sometimes say if we had to play a game tomorrow, Julian Sayin would be the starter.
Yeah. I guess it comes down to how quickly Julian, especially Julian, can do the thing that Ryan Day is waiting on. Because you talk with people, it doesn't sound like, but with both of these guys, that Day is waiting to see one of these guys be good enough to play quarterback here. And it's more of an intangible thing that Ryan Day is waiting on. Mm-hmm. And if it feels like that intangible thing is spent entirety of summer workouts formulating, and because you don't have to name him any earlier than that first scrimmage, you're not going to name him any earlier than that first scrimmage, then fine. I think my issue with it is just, it feels like, for whatever it's worth, because it really doesn't matter. Ohio State's the reigning national champion. But it can feel like Ohio State quarterback situation has been losing the PR situation for the last 6 months because Texas named its starting quarterback the moment that Quinn Ewers walked out the door, while Ohio State, in the way that they've gone about naming starting quarterbacks, has often waited until anywhere between 10 and 15 days to name a starter. Does that matter?
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think it does either. The thing, as you were talking that I was thinking about was, we're talking about, the date of it all. I think it honestly comes down to also what's best for, let's say, you think it's going to be Julian. If it's what's best for him. Is he going to be better and more prepared for that Texas game if you give him the starting nod August 5th I don't know. I just picked a day. August 5th, early in camp. And you're like, you know what? Hey, man, you're the guy. We believe in you. We're going to give you all the first team reps. We're going to get you all the reps going forward. Is that going to be better for him? Or is it going to be better for him to say, or for Ryan to say, you know what? Hey, guys, like both of you guys are right at each other's heels. And if you can really kind of push each other that way, it's just, there's a lot of dynamics that come into this, and I think it would not surprise me if we see a very, very early quarterback decision. It would not surprise me if we go into that week of the 18th and Ryan Day still has not named a starting quarterback. I think he's going to name one by the end of that week of the 18th, but it would not surprise me if we kind of go a little bit early, like right at the beginning of camp, or if this stretches maybe a little bit longer to where some people start to get antsy.
Steven, is there any chance we see Julian Sand win like Iron Buckeye or something?
I think if he wins a Iron Buckeye, Ryan Day is going to name him the starting quarterback.
It sounded like Ryan Day said if Julian Sand wins Iron Buckeye, he's his team starting.
Which, and I don't know. I don't want to put a lot. That's why I'm talking like this. I don't want to put a lot of stock in that because he might have just been saying that because him and Mick have to sit down and have a conversation about who was Iron Buckeye, because there's a lot of choices, right? I think we're all assuming that JJ is going to get it. I think we're all assuming that Sonny Styles is going to be on that list. I think we're all assuming that Austin Sareveld is probably going to be on that list. I think the way he talked about Carnell Tate stepping up as a leader, saying that he's come the furthest as a leader, I think he might be on that list. Ethan Owenyawa, Luke Montgomery might be on that list. Maybe Brandon Ennis is going to be on. I'm just naming people where, from a leadership standpoint, it sounds like they've all taken a step. If one of those two quarterbacks shows up on that list, I think it's a fair thing to ask Ryan Day, hey, Ryan, do you already have your starting quarterback after the first day of fall camp? Now, if neither one of them is on it, then it's not a big deal. I don't think we're going to go, oh, no, Ohio State's starting quarterback wasn't an Iron Buckeye. What are we going to do? Because I don't think C.J. Stroud or Justin Fields or Kyle McCord or Will Howard were ever Iron Buckeye. So it's not the end of the world if they're not, but it is something if they are. I actually don't remember the last time a quarterback was an Iron Buckeye. But okay. We're trying to have conversations about the quarterback when all of us are sitting here going, we think Julian Sand is going to be the starting quarterback. So it's you're trying to find a way to have a nuanced conversation about something that is less nuanced because of who their first opponent is. So there's an element here, if it feels like my tone is, why not just name the dude we already know it's going to be so you can get on with game planning for Texas? But I understand there's more to it than that when you're building a program.
Let me ask you this, Stephen. Do you think Ohio State and or Devin Brown benefited from the quarterback competition going into August last year, even though we all knew it was going to be Will Howard?
I mean, I guess we'll find out if Devin wins the job at California.
Well, I mean more so in the sense of do you think Day not naming a starter, even though we all knew Will Howard was going to be the starter, do you think that kept Devin Brown more engaged? Do you think that kept him from transferring in the spring portal? Do you
did it push Will Howard?
Yeah, because if that's the case, then telling Lincoln he's not the starter, well, what if he left in May? And then Tavian St. Clair's your backup quarterback?
I think that stance is a great take this year because your options were my backup is a guy 30 years into the program versus a true freshman who is maybe 24 months from being able to play football at the college level, given the level he played at in high school, and a guy you brought in here as a fourth string quarterback just so you could have four quarterbacks in the room. I don't think they had to do that last year.
Julian Sand would have been your backup. Your backup would have been a true freshman.
I think Julian Sand's true freshman versus Tavian St. Clair's freshman is context of level of competition before this. But also, Lincoln was still here last year. He was not a true freshman. He was in his second year. I don't again. It worked out because Devin had to come in for a snack. For a snap against Michigan State. A snack too because Jeremiah Smith ate on that play. But he had to come in, and instead of maybe handing the ball off, if you had to throw Julian in there or Lincoln in there, you decided to be aggressive and throw the ball, and you got a touchdown out of it. Which was in the moment a pretty important play because Ohio State wasn't really playing well offensively up to that point. But I don't know, man. It's hard because you either play or you don't play at quarterback. So keeping the room engaged, that's about having a healthy room. But if the guy who ends up playing on Saturdays isn't any good, who cares how engaged guys 2, 3, 4, and 5 are? I get it this year. You can't have a second-year quarterback who's played 27 snaps and a true freshman who was playing very low-level high school football the last 4 years be your quarterback room. I get that.
I think what my point is here is Ryan Day not naming a quarterback publicly because he doesn't want to name one publicly, or do you think Lincoln Kienholz genuinely believes he could be the starting quarterback? And if he doesn't believe that, would he still be here?
No, I think two things are true. I think Lincoln Kienholz 100% thinks he can win this job. I think Ryan Day 100% thinks he can win this job. And I think Lincoln Kienholz did some things in the spring that suggested that if he continued on that trajectory, he can win this job. I think his entire description, because it's the same description, Andrew, that Luke Fahey is going to get here at half, is 2 years of development and then take your shot in year 3. I think Lincoln Kienholz is well positioned to take a shot this year. He's the best athlete in the room. Ryan Day even said as much on Tuesday when we were talking. He's got like a -4 handicap, or he can windmill dunk. Like he could play college sports at a lot of different sports, quite frankly. I just don't think he's the best option at quarterback for Ohio State, because you got a 5-star kid who got a quick release and seems to process information extremely well. Ryan Day was talking about his intelligence and his mind a lot, and that's the way they talked about CJ Stroud and all of this. So yes, to answer your question, yes, I think Lincoln Kienholz has put himself in a position where he can take his best shot at winning this job. I just don't think he's going to win the job. And you're playing Texas, so it can't be like the Kyle McCord, Devin Brown situation where it's, I don't know yet, let's play some games and figure it out. Because you'll lose. And does losing mean your season is over? No, because we have a 12-team college football playoff. But you'd rather not lose that game. It's still football. Anything else from Day that people want to bring up before we take a break? Just Day. We'll save the players. Just Day.
I want to mention a couple things. I did a story for cleveland.com, just like 10 takeaways. The Lincoln Kienholz athleticism thing is crazy. Dunk, hit a home run, 4 handicap, and be a football quarterback at Ohio State is crazy. Ethan Onwinyawa, Ryan Day's quote was, he's gotten better, more flexible, quicker. He's lost weight. He's more comfortable with the offense. That's massive. Like, I think we have glossed over at times at the fact that like Ohio State hasn't 100% been sure starting left tackle is ready to be a starting left tackle at Ohio State. And I think this summer, like when we talk about like what can the quarterbacks do this summer, there's not a lot that the quarterbacks could have done, in terms of the quarterback competition this summer. There's a lot that Ethan Onwinyawa could have done, maybe not in terms of like a starting competition, but in terms of like solidifying himself at Ohio State. I think that's massive. Ryan Day, like kind of casually, he at first said that Bennett Christian has made the biggest steps as a leader. And then he took that back. He said it's actually Carnell, but like Bennett Christian has still made a lot of strides as a leader for this team. That's kind of interesting. Like that's not a name we've talked a lot about, especially with Max Clare coming in. So keep maybe like a dark horse pick to like have a touchdown against Penn State is Bennett Christian.
I thought that was notable. Ryan Day's been really complimentary of this tight end room this offseason. And not just because Max Clare is in it, like the depth of it too. They've got 4 options between Clare, Will Kazmarek, Bennett Christian, and Jelani Thurman that I think are going to play like meaningful football for them this year. Andrew, anything from Day that you thought was interesting on Tuesday?
Yeah, I mean, Stefan just kind of hit on a couple of different things, like with the linemen. I mean, obviously, anytime Ryan Day talks about linemen, my ears perk up. So I thought that was notable because, like, for as much as we talked about, kind of the newness of Ohio State's tackle position, like if I just told you the bare bones of it, like, I don't think this is not pessimistic to say. Ohio State is taking an interior player who has not played right tackle, and they're going to make him the right tackle. Ohio State took a Rice transfer, and they're going to make him the left tackle. I think if you just lay it out like that, some people might be a little afraid. But Ohio State hasn't really given us like a reason to kind of think that might be a problem. I think, maybe the upside is certainly there with Nyanwa. Sierreveld has obviously been like maybe the biggest winner of the offseason at any position. There's still questions. How does Sierreveld handle the move to tackle? How does Nyanwa move or handle the move to this level of football? How does he handle that jump? Can he handle the speed rushers? Like Colin Simmons is going to be a really big issue. I think him talking about the tackles was definitely one of the more football things that he talked about that I thought was notable. But in terms, like you said, today, I don't know if you said this on the pod or on the video, but like today at Big Ten Media Days, it was very much a helicopter view for the majority of the interview. It kind of felt like, right? Like the majority of his time where it was not, hey, Ryan, how do you feel about your left guard situation? How do you feel about Davis Nigbinosin's play going into, his last year? How do you feel about your safety battle. Like, I don't even know if he got asked about the safety position. Like, I mean, he got asked a lot of questions, so maybe he did, but like, it was much more, what do you think of the playoff format? I asked him about what changes he would make to the recruiting side of things, not just at Ohio State, but just in general. And he's reiterated this in the past, but he again reiterated, like, we were playing football from, the end of our season, really, from, after the Big Ten championship game, when they started getting ready for Tennessee. And they played to January 20th. And he is still very upset that teams were able to try and poach some of his players. And he said that he and, Ohio State and Notre Dame were the only two teams that happened to, because they were the teams that lasted the longest. So, today I thought was a nice kind of, it gave nice insight to maybe how Ryan Day views the sport right now. And to me, I thought that was interesting in the way of, he's in lockstep, I think, with Petiti, and, with kind of how things play out. So yeah, a lot of big picture structure stuff.
I think that's the jux of essentially what Day stuff. We're going to dive deeper into a lot of this stuff when we get back, as we get closer to the fall camp. We got Market Down Mondays coming up real soon. And so that's the juxtaposition of essentially what Ryan Day talked about: defensive tackle depth, where the quarterback battle stands heading in the fall camp, and a lot of recruiting things. Of Day has a vision for what he thinks it would be ideal for college football in terms of the recruiting in the portal. One portal window. He'd rather recruiting be essentially a May and June thing. It's a year-round thing in terms of actual recruiting, but in terms of on the road and some of the hassle that comes with that, not having to do a lot of that stuff in the middle of college football playoff races, and instead maybe you do that stuff in May and June. I don't think that's actually a bad idea. I think that's a really good, to not have coaches out on the road, especially when some coaches can be on the road while other coaches can't because they're game planning. But then also those windows that open up, those 5-day windows when teams lose in the college football playoff, where teams can just have a field day on your roster and you can't do the same with them. Let's take a quick break. And then I want to discuss very quickly the three players who were here, because we all were at some of the other players who were here for Ohio State when we come back from the break on Buckeye Talk.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks, or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Visit USAA.com/bundle.
Bundle savings are off total premium, not available in all states or in all situations. To qualify, auto policy must be active prior to property policy issue. Subject to change. Restrictions apply. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Happy Gilmore. I haven't swung a club in years.
You know what you gotta do. Grip it and rip it.
Or... Oh, now that is some Happy Gilmore.
Everyone is talking about the comeback kid, Happy Gilmore.
Happy Knee.
Yeah, baby.
Happy Gilmore 2, only on Netflix July 25th. Rated PG-13, may be inappropriate for children under 13.
And we're back here on Buckeye Talk. Stephen Means, Stefan Krajisnik, and Andrew Gillis from day one of Big Ten Media Days with Ryan Day, Caleb Downs, Jeremiah Smith, and Sonny Styles. Let's start with Sonny very quickly. Well, not very quickly. If we need to talk about it, we'll talk about it. Andrew, I think you were at Sonny the entire time.
The entire time.
Okay. Biggest takeaway from your time with Sonny Styles?
That's a good question. Like, again, Sonny is not one of those guys where you walk to him and you think he's going to say something wild, right? Like, he's going to, like, Sonny is a little Cody Simon-esque. So I asked him about kind of replacing Cody Simon and, you know, what he learned from him. And, you know, he sounds like the Block O recipient. And that to me But that to me was really probably the thing that I took away, was that this not only sounds like the captain of the defense, the leader of the defense. Like, Caleb Downs is great, and Caleb Downs is the best player on this defense. Sonny is the guy that people are going to look to, and Sonny is the guy that everybody's going to talk about. And he talked about kind of knowing the history of the block up and how that whole thing started, and what an honor it would be and what an honor it would mean. And I just think that this was a very nice precursor to where, if and when this happens, lucky for us, we have quotes ready to go for that story. Sonny Styles talking about what it would mean. That was the biggest takeaway for me. Like, I asked him about Jeremiah Smith, and he said, he was impressed how humble he was. And, I asked him about the Michigan game, and he said, oh, that game's never going to lose its importance. And there was a bunch of different things that were not really newsworthy, but I just think hearing him talk about being the leader of this defense, the leader of this team, and then what it would mean to be the Blocko recipient kind of lets you know, like, okay, it's in his head, and I think this is probably what's going to end up happening. So to me, I mean, this might just be Cody Simon 2.0, and that's a very, very good thing for Ohio State's defense, because I really want fans to understand how good and how important Cody Simon was in 2024.
Stefan, you were at Caleb. I think you were like making your way around to different places though, but I think you were at the Caleb the longest of us. I went over there for a quick second. Most interesting thing, biggest takeaway from 45 minutes with Caleb Downs.
Let me say first, Caleb actually talked about Sonny a little bit. And when I did my one-on-one with Caleb a couple weeks ago, we also talked about Sonny a little bit. Caleb thinks that Sonny is like the funniest person in the world. Both times he's gone out of his way to talk about how funny Sonny is. So like, I think there's maybe this like light painted on Sonny that's like, he's a leader, he's a captain, he's super serious. Like, he's actually a really funny guy. And Caleb Downs is like obsessed with him. Someone from the Players Tribune had asked Caleb if the NCAA did like a Hard Knocks type show, who would be like the star from Ohio State. I thought he was going to say Edric Houston. He said Sonny Styles, and he said Sonny Styles is, quote, a clown. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I had a back and forth with Caleb for a little bit, trying to like, as best as possible in like the least boring way possible, like get a glimpse into his like film study. Like that is consistently what we hear about the most with Caleb Downs, is he is a film junkie. And I think when you watch him play, his athleticism shows up. We always talk about that play near the sideline against Michigan State, where he just like kind of like, you wonder how he got there so quick. Yes, part of that is he's super fast, he's super strong, he can be anywhere on the field at an instant. Other part of that, he knows where to be on the field at all times. He knows where to be before a wide receiver or running back knows where to be. And so much of that is because he does so much film study. And I had asked him, like, how much of your off season is watching film on yourself? How much is like watching film on Penn State, watching film on Texas, watching film on, tough teams on your schedule, other teams on your schedule? And he said he's gone through like basically Ohio State's entire 2024 schedule. If there's teams that like a team played against Penn State and Ohio State's facing that team this year, he'll watch some of that film. And then I kind of asked him about Arch Manning, and like, you're playing a quarterback who there is some film on him, right? Like, there's more film on Arch Manning than there is on Julian Sayin, but like,
sure,
there's not a lot of film on Arch Manning to watch before your week one competition. And maybe he's the best quarterback in college football, right? He's being hyped up that way. Like, you're going into the game where let's say Arch is what everyone thinks he can be. You're going into week one playing maybe the best quarterback in college football, and you really have no film to watch on him. And Caleb did say, like, yeah, there's about 3 games worth of film, but like, it's not just about watching a quarterback. You watch Texas, you watch what their coach does, like all this and that. So like, Ohio State in a weird way, like, has somewhat of an edge because I think they have Caleb Downs watching film. And like, I think he's so good at watching film that he can probably find tendencies, not just for Arch Manning, but for Texas, even if it's like limited of how much Arch Manning played, to where like, I don't know, maybe that's an X factor in this game. Is like, you can't say Caleb Downs is an X factor because he's the best player in college football. Like, that's not what an X factor is. Like, Brandon Inniss is an X factor. But like, maybe Caleb Downs' film studies are an X factor. Like, maybe nobody in Texas or none of Texas's players can watch film and study Ohio State for a game where there's no film on that quarterback in the same way that Caleb Downs can do that for Ohio State.
The juxtaposition of the two best players in college football is hilarious. You got one who's an athletic freak who, if you ask him, hey, how'd you do that? He's like, I don't know. And you got the other one that Caleb Downs is not some imposing athlete. He's a normal size. Obviously, he's in good shape because he plays football and he's at Ohio State and Alabama, so he's physically in good shape. But he's not. He would blend in at it. Huh?
He's gotten a little bit bigger this offseason, but yeah.
He has, but I think he would blend in at a grocery store, right? Like Jeremiah Smith's 6'4", 225 pounds. Jeremiah Smith walks in the room and you go, oh, that guy plays something. I don't know if Caleb Downs is quite that, but then you turn the film on and go, this man is a genius. He's like football Einstein. So I just think I was at JJ asking him questions about, hey, how awesome are you? And he's like, I don't know, man. I asked him what's the most underrated part of his game. He said, I don't know. Which went, to me, I took as there's nothing underrated about my game. I'm great at everything. My biggest takeaway from Jeremiah Smith is he is one competitive son of a gun. He was talking about, obviously there are the quotes about what he said about Michigan, and our rivalry reporter, our columnist Jimmy Watkins is writing about that for the site cleveland.com/OSU, and how he's almost this perfect person for it. Because Ryan Day got asked about the Michigan game. He got asked how do you beat Michigan, like flat out, and he went, you score more points to him, and then he took a sip of water and moved forward with his life. Well, Jeremiah Smith is going, it's been a rivalry for 100 years, and it'll be a rivalry when I'm gone, and I'm into it. I'm all the way in to the idea of a rivalry. I do not like those people over there. You know, there's a video of him talking with his trainer a couple of weeks ago about the offensive pass interference call from the Oregon loss, and he used that. He's still upset about it, even though his own trainer told him it was offensive pass interference. But he used that as fuel and then exploded in the Rose Bowl because he felt like there was no way they should have lost that game, let alone it been competitive the first time they played Oregon. Ryan Day's talking about how he has to be first in everything, even if it's as simple as like a drill in practice. He's crazy. He actually might be a little insane, but in a way that you almost want to see from a guy who's in his position, who isn't really that talkative, isn't really about talking about it. But if you get him going about stuff, you see that competitive edge really start to come out. And what does that look like over the next 2 years as Ryan Day tries to scheme up an offense to get him open when the entire world tries to take him away? Anything else before we get out of here that people want to mention about stuff they heard or saw today on the first day of Big Ten Media Days?
Kurt Cignetti, somebody asked him about Jeremiah Smith, and
it was Adam King.
Was it Adam? Okay, I showed up as the question was getting asked. So
yeah, we can give Adam credit. Adam asked that. Adam also asked Tony Petitti today about sending the letter to Michigan. So Adam 2 for 2 on the good questions today. But go ahead.
So my apologies to Adam King at 10 TV. I did not know that was him. So Cignetti got asked, and he's like, how do you cover Jeremiah Smith? And the number one thing Cignetti said, he kind of like laughed and he went, well, I'm assuming you're talking about man coverage. You just do the best you can and hope it's a poorly placed throw. And I just thought that was pretty funny. Somebody asked, I don't know if it was Adam or not, it was a follow-up about Jeremiah. And Kurt said, yeah, he's the best I've ever seen at his age. And a couple of people just kind of like started, like there was like a brief moment of like, wait a minute. Because Kurt Cignetti was the wide receivers coach at the University of Alabama from 2007 to 2010.
He was.
And a player by the name of Julio Jones was there. And somebody went, Julio? And there was kind of like a moment of like some people didn't know that he coached Julio. And he went, yes, I coached Julio. They're pretty. And you could tell he was like, well, maybe Julio. But it was like a debate. And then he went, well, they're pretty similar body types. I would say Jeremiah is a touch faster or a slightly faster, whatever quote he used. I would have to look that up. But he basically said Jeremiah's a little faster and they're basically the same person. And he didn't say it out loud, but he pretty much insinuated that Jeremiah Smith is better than Julio Jones was at that age. And Julio Jones is one of the most talented and best receivers to ever play the sport of football. I mean, I just think fans should know that because people love Jeremiah Smith as they should, and people appreciate Jeremiah Smith as they should. But I also hope people kind of grasp forget the knowledge of Jeremiah Smith plays for my favorite team. This is the best. People should probably start to put into context of like, I will almost certainly never see this again. Like, I will almost certainly never see this type of player play for my favorite team. I mean, this might not happen again for 20 years, and it's massive how notable that is. And I just think it's really cool to have like an opposing coach in the conference go like, yeah, well, he's a sophomore, and the best thing you could do is hang on and hope. He didn't say hang on and hope, but it's very clear that everybody in the conference is like, dear God, I don't know what to do against this.
315, we were bringing all types of information during the first day of Big Ten Media Days. We'll be out here today as you're listening to this as well when PJ Fleck, David Braun at Northwestern, Luke Ficklo, Wisconsin, Dan Lanning at Oregon, Jetta Fish at Washington, and James Franklin, preseason favorite to win the Big Ten. They'll take the podium tomorrow. That's Ohio State's Big Ten Media Days. They'll be back, and we'll start everything when we get back next week, next Thursday, when they start fall camp. The season is here, 614-350-3315. It's a 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that for Stefan Krajisnik and Andrew Gillis. I'm Stephen Means, and that was Buckeye Talk.